Okay, so we've all done these colorblind tests, right? See like how good your color vision actually is and see if you're colorblind or not, because I've done these a lot. But let's talk about how colorblindness works. So basically, when people are colorblind, it means that the cone cells in their eyes don't function as much. They're not quite as sensitive as in normal people, and so they don't pick up on colors as well, and this can be to different levels, and there can be different levels of color blindness to different colors, but basically it just happens because your cone cells in your eyes don't pick up on color as good. You also may have heard that women can't be colorblind, because I know I was told that, and I know my sister was told that, and quite a few people, I've heard, have been told that women can't be colorblind. That is actually not true. But what is true is it is actually more difficult for women to be colorblind. It is actually the same thing with male pattern baldness, which I'll talk about how that works, how women, it's harder for them to be colorblind. So these are your chromosomes. There's the X and Y chromosome, which makes you male, and the X and X chromosome, which makes you female. Generally, there are, as always, some funky things surrounding this, but that's generally, for the most part, how it works. So what the colorblindness gene is, it's actually something called an X-linked gene, which means it's only on the X chromosome, and that it is also a recessive gene. So that means if there's a recessive gene, it is kind of, I guess, weaker, and so it gets masked if there's a dominant gene. So since the colorblindness gene is X-linked and recessive, it means it's only on the X gene, but if there's another X gene that has the dominant allele, then it cancels out the colorblind recessive allele. But in males, there's only one X chromosome, and so if the colorblind gene is on there, if you have the recessive colorblind allele, it can't get masked by anything, so it gets expressed because the Y chromosome is incapable of masking the colorblindness gene. In females, there's two X chromosomes, so if one of the X chromosomes has the colorblindness gene but the other doesn't, the colorblind gene gets masked by the other X chromosome. So the only way for females to actually be colorblind is if both of their X chromosomes have the colorblindness gene on them, so it can't get masked by a dominant gene. So in order for that to happen, there must be a chromosome from the mother and the father X chromosome, and they both must have the colorblind gene, or else it gets masked by the dominant one. So they have to both have a colorblind gene, which is harder.